speaking about kind of moving out from being a private person,
Hmm.
and one of your loves, which is kind of fighting games and the fighting game community, you
Yep.
periodically produce a program titled Meter Burn. Would you like to tell us a little bit about it?
So I'll go off and start by saying Meterburn was not my idea. Meterburn was not my idea. It was actually my co-host's idea. Because we felt at that time that there weren't enough
Well, first of
sort
all, who is your co-host? Let's put it that
uh
way.
my co-host goes by the name of Katie, and or her handle is Katie Cujo. She is a Street Fighter player based out of the Pittsburgh fighting game community. Um, and a lot of people adore her, obviously. But I digress. It was her idea because she thought that the amount of and this is definitely around the time where Twitch started taking off like exponentially. That there weren't like kind of like podcasts or like talk shows about the fighting community that were in a positive light. Um, Around this time was a show that was being broadcast every Tuesday regularly called the On Blast Show. Now, that just kind of that was a sort of like a Jerry Springer ish, unfiltered, uncensored sort of show, which isn't all necessarily bad, but it wasn't about fighting games. It was about the fighting game community, sure, but it wasn't about fighting games. It was about
It
people
was the
having beef with one another
it
and
was the Seinfeld of fighting game shows. It was a fighting game show about not fighting games, just about nothing.
exactly. Exactly. And like I mean, yeah, they'll talk about like, oh, we went to this tournament and all that stuff, but like but it was definitely not about that in the grand scheme. So we wanted to create something that's informative, something that's easy listening, and something that's fun to interact with and listen to. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
Did you guys draw any inspirations from some of the other shows out there? Like, just to throw out a name that I thought that I feel at least has been a fairly positive influence, like Ultra Chen TV, which is kind of produced by Ultra David and James Chen. For those that don't know.
Yeah. I and like through my years in the fighting community, I had talked with them a lot, and they are like one of the most friendly and just they and passionate people about what they do, and they're really analytical about pretty much everything about fighting games, which is amazing to me. Um, which is what I kind of wanted to bring to the show, and also that they had a sort of personality about them too, and I felt at the time that I had that. Katie's a pretty face and she's a decent player. She has that. We can bring this to a different light, in our own unique way.
And you mentioned I'd like to mention that you say like she brings a pretty face to it. But I think it's clear for anybody that has heard you speak about the show or about your co-host
Mhm.
that it's never about pretty faces.
No,
That's the value that she brings to the show. It's more
no,
the
no, no. She's really bright, and she pulls in a lot of ideas and a
she.
lot of our
I
guests.
guess the
So
point is she would, even if she came up with the concept, she would not be on the show if you didn't think that she had value to bring with the
exactly.
guests, and same for you actually.
Yeah. Like I felt like doing it because I've always wanted to start something like that, just not necessarily like fighting game esque. This was like around a time where I started to shift away from fighting games and stop traveling as much because I didn't have a sponsor at the time. I don't want to waste all my money. I was a college kid. So, I wanted to work towards that, but I still felt like there was some sort of chemistry between us in a working sort of manner that we'd be able to bring a lot of entertainment to the fighting community and information that then like other people try to.
So do you feel like information or education was the main uh, sorry, not information or education, education or entertainment, which of those do you think was the main focus of the show, or do you think it's really split down the center?
I I definitely wanted it to be split down the center because if
Well,
you
you
because you
say
can't.
that there's a thing that sticks out to me is you say you wanted it to be. Do you feel like it has kind of
I mean,
changed over
I
time?
mean, um, the thing is about the meter burn thing was that we didn't really get the most stellar of starts. Again, there were a lot of
Let's take a step back then. So, like, what
sure.
was the catalyst that you actually, you talk about this concept, you kind of ballpark it with one another, how you might do it. What's the actual impetus that catalyst that you go like, okay, we're doing this day, and you know, you get everything set up.
I honestly just kind of wanted to make this girl happy. Like not for my personal gain, but like she had like a lot of good points that there were, and I kind of embellished upon this like a lot, and this kind of came out to be the vision that I wanted for me to burn, or yeah, that I wanted for me to burn, was that there are a lot of people in this fighting community that don't get noticed. There are a lot of good players online, offline, in their respective games that get no shine whatsoever. When it comes to tournaments now, tournaments being streamed now, it's all about people are like, hey man, I'm on the stream station. People get to see me do whatever, whether I win or lose. Like people want to get that shine, and meter burn was kind of like another way to give good players or good leaders of their respective fighting game communities a chance to tell people what they bring to the table. Like obviously there will be like the FGC stars, the IFC yipes, the Marvel guy, Alex Valle, really well versed in his multitude of Capcom fighting games, and hell, even Tekken 5. A lot of people like that, but those were the people that you always heard about, especially when it came to the news on Shoryuken, the news on event hubs. It almost became like a sort of like tabloid thing. Justin Wong says this. IFC Yipes wants to do this. And so on and so forth. But and again,
So here's a good question then. Do you
yeah.
feel like that type of publicity has um how would I put it? Do you feel like it has do you feel like it has had any type of positive effect on the community as a whole? Like, they say any publicity is good publicity, just getting the idea out there that we're a group of players that's
Yeah.
playing these games. Do you think that that was a good part to that, just getting more people interested? Or do you think it was just strictly negative? Like, you really didn't need this in order to get that groundswell into the
Um
mainstream?
I don't know. I feel like everyone's unique. Everyone deserves a chance to get their shine. So whether they're good or bad, or I mean, like it was sort of like a voice for the voiceless sort of thing. Especially when it comes to social media like Facebook and Twitter, where all these big heads, not big heads, but like you know what I mean, like the leading guys, the popular guys in the fighting community have a really loud voice because everybody follows them. Whether it's good or bad, um, there will always be someone that either has like a different way of thinking, a better idea, or or something of that sort.
I will
So,
I will entirely agree with this just because even going back before social media,
uh,
you mentioned giving a voice to the voiceless. Oftentimes it's whoever's popular or who's kind of, one of the good old boys, that kind of gets the
exactly,
benefit of
it's
the
whoever
doubt.
people want to hear about.
But, looking back on it, there were plenty of times where either people were wrong that they needed a new look on things, or flat out they did something that was incredibly negative.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to stick on it too long, but for example, like something that has come to light probably over the last 3 years that pretty much everybody in the community knew about it, but it just hadn't gotten the type of attention until social media, is things like bracket fixing.
Yep.
Um, and I feel like everybody kind of knew it existed in the fighting game community, but I'm not sure any of them knew exactly how bad until people started posting the paper brackets for things, and they're like, okay, why does this guy have the easiest bracket ever?
Yeah.
Or like, wait, I was supposed to fight this guy at this time. Why am I not fighting him? Like that was a favorable matchup for me. Why did you change it?
Mm-hmm.
Just and it takes a variety of forms, but yeah, I can definitely understand where you are coming from when you say like it's important to take things by the merit of what's being said, not on the merit of who's saying it. Although
Yeah.
that can play a part in it, like you
No,
got to take a
it
scumbag says
definitely.
something, you got to be aware of it.
Right.
but I
But like the thing about that was that like um sure there were a lot of negative things going on, and people trying to blow each other up for that sort of thing, but we definitely wanted to keep the focus that not everything in the fighting community is bad. And especially when we give these skilled players or thinkers or organizers of fighting game tournaments within their community or whatever, is that like the good definitely outweighs the bad.
Do you feel
And
like your concept has stayed with that? Like, do you feel like you've kind of
most definitely,
okay?
most definitely, we have the Meterbird team has featured a multitude of people that you wouldn't get to hear otherwise. Of course, we had like our favorites, like we had Alex Faye on, we had IFC Yipes on, and all that stuff. But we were just, people love hearing about what they have to say, especially when it comes to baby faces, a sort of if that sort of term in the community. Like really nice thinkers and people who want to do good and people who want to like share their ideas. Um, then also in that same light, there are other people besides the well-known people that either think the same way or have better ways of thinking or more opinions, or like again, like it's just different.
So
Um,
we'll save the opposing view of this, perhaps for another time when I might interview you again. But we'll start with the positive one, which
sure,
is which is probably your most favorite guest that was on Meterburn.
man.
I went with your favorite, but I'm not going to ask you the opposite question until maybe another time. But
Maybe another time. Maybe when I have
this is about positivity, right, in the
I
fighting
mean,
game community.
I I don't know. Everyone brought a little bit of like something to the table, and like I for a
Uh,
time.
see, come on,
For,
come on.
no.
This is what we want to hear.
I'm just gonna preface it with this. Like for a time, I there was a time where I was not enjoying what I did for the Media Burn cast. I felt like it was I wouldn't say like a thankless job, but like more of like a all I'm doing basically is um being used for like the hardware, the equipment, and all of that stuff because like
But
there
that
was a time
is
where like our co-host would like make like announcements about like who to like bring in kind of like without my knowing or without like my input. So it's all like, hey, we're going live this time on this day with this person. I'm just like, I kind of didn't like, it's not like it's not like she needed my authorization, but maybe like my input, or like like a sort of like there was definitely like a lot of miscommunication there.
has that
um
been since kind of dealt with,
oh yeah.
or okay, so no
Yeah.
longer a real issue. So,
No, it wasn't an issue, but like, um,
but
I feel like going back to like my one of some of my favorites.
no, not some of your. I want the favorite.
My favorite,
This
okay. Um, it would honestly, of the new guys, it would have to be Yipes, because We actually worked together a bit um, in the past. When I was doing tournament organization, bracket running, and I also had a couple of commentary gigs for major tournaments. And Seasons Meetings was kind of like the it's like right in my backyard, and it's one of the biggest fighting game tournaments like ever. Um, like me and Yipes hit it off like really well. The guy, he's a funny guy. He found me to be like really charismatic, and like our commentary duo was just like completely like it was so much fun that like interviewing the guy again was like, hey chum, let's catch up on old times. Like you're still like the hilarious guy that we know, and the an influential guy, and like let's talk about that. Like I love hearing history of the hype man. Like there is no fighting game tournament where you don't hear it's Marble Baby or or the Mango Sentinel. Like that guy is one of the most influential figures, also one of the most humble, nice, friendly like people that you will ever come to know, dude. Like it just kind of debunks the fact that all well-known figures are a term we want to call Hollywood. Like they don't have
Well,
the
and the
mentality.
opposite of that, the antisocial, also. You
Yeah,
know,
no,
like
exactly. Like this is basically like the shining star, basically, because it's like, hey, um, there's no need to be elitist. There's no need to be, an asshole to new people. This guy just does right by like everything, and like again, like a shining example on how people should be. And also he's grown to be like one of my good friends. So like there's things like that.
so I guess you said like it doesn't really matter you too much that you're a bit more public rather than private. Was it hard at all becoming even more public?
It was because I and I still do have a lot to say on my mind, and it can be either a strong suit or a sort of a fallacy of mine, where it's like I say a bit too much, and like it might be related to something or unrelated to something. Maybe people just want me to shut up. Maybe we it can definitely be viewed in that sort of light, because like again, as I'm like rambling, it's like, hey man, get to the point already. But
So let's not let it be known that we aren't shying away from the hard questions here. You know, like
no, no,
I say favorite. I don't mean a collection of good guests. You know,
yeah.
but